From WTOK TV, this is Newscenter 11.
Police are investigating what led to a man being shot multiple times in Meridian today. And it's election day in Mississippi. We have results of presidential and congressional races on the ballot.
Newscenter 11 at 10 starts now.
Good evening, I'm Candace Barnett. Many Mississippians got out today to cast their vote in the presidential primary election. Mississippi was one of 4 states holding their primary today. We have results of today's election in tonight's top story. 3 of the 4 remaining candidates for the Republican nomination have visited Mississippi on the campaign trail. Donald Trump and Ted Cruz were both in the Magnolia State yesterday, and Kasich has also visited the state to try and win votes. With 92% of the vote reporting, the race has been called for Donald Trump. He's won the race tonight, getting just over 47% of the votes so far in the state. Ted Cruz finished a strong second, followed right now by John Kasich and Marco Rubio. And we're now joined by Speaker Pro Tem of the Mississippi House of Representatives, Greg Snowden.
Candace, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for being here.
Great to be here. It's an exciting day, good turnout. I'm told that the Republican turnout may in fact be a record.
Wow.
2012 set the record, and we're on target to do that, so it's a very good day.
Well, I know we were expecting a lot, so that's great. Now, you were saying earlier today that this was kind of the expectation, the way that things turned out.
The only polling I saw, and it was somewhat dated, I think it's at least a couple of weeks old, indicated that Trump was likely to win in Mississippi, and he did. He had a solid win, about a 9-point victory over Ted Cruz, who also had a strong showing. Kasich, I think, came in around 8%, 9%, and Rubio around 5%. So I think that was expected, at least Trump's part of that was expected. Mississippi is a proportional delegate state, so the delegates will be proportioned at least between Trump and Cruz. But we're about to hit all these winner-take-all states, so things will shake up and probably shake out pretty quickly, I would suspect.
So do you think there's a chance for someone who's not Donald Trump to be winning here, or is he just going to keep pulling in these voters?
Well, it's very interesting because next week, on March the 15th, you have both the Florida and the Ohio primaries. Kasich absolutely has to win in Ohio. Rubio absolutely has to win in Florida. If they don't, it's hard to see them continuing. Ironically, Ted Cruz, who would benefit most with a one-on-one, all the polls show, for instance, the polls indicate Cruz would have beaten Trump tonight head-to-head in Michigan, had it been just the two of them. But he would benefit from a one-on-one candidacy. But at this point, it's almost to Cruz's benefit to keep it going with his other guys too and keep Trump from getting that momentum. If Trump were to win, for instance, in Ohio and in Florida next week, he would have some tremendous momentum going into winner-take-all states. So it's very dicey right now. You'd have to say that Trump is the overwhelming favorite to win the nomination. Cruz is an outside shot, and everybody else really has very, very little chance.
All right. Thanks so much, Greg. We'll
Thank
certainly
you.
be watching as this goes. Well, in the Democratic presidential primary, Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders are facing off as the only 2 candidates currently running active campaigns for the Democratic nomination. Mississippi is one of 2 states, along with Michigan, where Democrats are voting today. With 75% of the votes in, Hillary Clinton had a landslide victory over Senator Bernie Sanders, as she currently has 82% of the vote. Sanders currently sits at about 16% of the vote. So now I'm joined with Stephen Wilson, who is chairman of the Lauderdale County Democratic Party, to talk about what do you make of all these numbers?
Well, we expected Senator Clinton to come in and have a lead. I don't know that people would have thought that it would have been such a commanding win here in the state of Mississippi. And so I think she's got a lot of momentum. I understand the race up in Michigan is very tight, and so it looks like Bernie Sanders is ahead there, but the math is starting to become pretty daunting for Senator Sanders.
So seeing Clinton having this lead, I mean, especially here in Mississippi, what do you think that means for what Mississippi Democrats are looking for in their president?
I think they're looking for someone with proven leadership, someone who's been around, and someone who they feel will stand a good chance of winning in the general election.
And how confident do you think Democrats should be going into this presidential election in November?
Well, I think Senator Clinton has a proven track record in the Senate. She served as a Secretary of State. She certainly knows how Washington works. So I think that she brings that knowledge and experience, which can be invaluable because there is a learning curve, certainly for every job, but definitely with being President of the United States.
Do you think that there would be an ideal candidate for whoever the Democratic nominee, whether it's Clinton or Sanders, to go up against on the Republican side?
You know, some people have said that Trump would be the ideal candidate, but I disagree because he's brought in a lot of energy and he's brought in a lot of outside votes. I mean, as Speaker Snowden indicated, turnout's high, and you certainly can't ignore that kind of enthusiasm.
All right, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. We enjoyed it.
Well, in addition to the presidential election, voters in East Mississippi are also voting in a congressional primary today. And Greg Harper, who has served as District 3's congressman since 2009, faced off against Jimmy Giles of Pearl, and the incumbent won in a landslide. With 78% of the votes in, Harper took 89% of the votes to Giles' 11%. We spoke to Congressman Harper about his victory and his plans looking ahead.
It is such an honor to have the opportunity to serve the folks in Mississippi. We know there's no better place in this country to raise a family, and it is very humbling to know that we will, prevail tonight when all the votes are in.
Harper also said he's still endorsing Kasich, but will support whoever ends up being the Republican nominee. And Democrats are voting for their nominee for the 3rd Congressional District, who will face off against Harper in November. Dennis C. Quinn of Magnolia is the projected winner over Nathan Stewart of Rankin County. With 78% of the vote counted, Quinn has 65% of the votes to Stewart's 35%. So it looks like Quinn will move on to face the incumbent, Greg Harper, in the general election. There are several ways you can get results tonight. We'll have them available at WTOK.com/elections, on the WTOK app for your smartphone or tablet, and of course, we'll have the results scrolling at the bottom of your screen.
Now, News Center 11 weather with Chief Meteorologist Brian Hutton Jr.
Well, a very warm evening for us this evening, and it's transitioning to a warm night tonight and another warm day tomorrow as well. More clouds than sunshine, though, as we head through our Wednesday. Temperatures will be in the mid-60s by 9, upper 70s again for highs for your Wednesday. A stray storm is possible through the afternoon, but rain chances ramp up as we close out the week. Friday will be the soggiest of the next 7, with 1 to 3 inches of rain possible just on Friday. Complete details are in your 7-day forecast in just a few minutes. Candace?
All right, thanks, Brian. After decades of service, a longtime Meridian restaurant is closing its doors. Both employees and customers were surprised to find a closed sign at Ryan's Buffet Sunday morning. We contacted Ryan's parent company, Buffets LLC, to find out why. A representative tells us they filed for bankruptcy and the company decided to shut the doors of all its weaker restaurants. No word yet on whether Ryan's will ever open again in the future. Jasper County investigators say the person arrested in connection with the weekend shooting death of a teenager will not face any charges. Captain Robert Morris says the teen's death has been ruled accidental. The teenager, who was taken into custody yesterday, has since been released. Authorities were called to a mobile home in the Moss community after a 911 call came in around 8:45 Sunday. Morris says the incident happened during a party, but there was not an altercation. One person was transported to the hospital after being shot several times this morning in Meridian. It happened around 8:30 on the south side of the city near the corner of 30th Avenue and 2nd Street. Police are still working to find out more information about the suspect, who is only described as a black male. News Center 11 spoke with a resident who says the victim knocked on his door asking for help.
He said he gave 2 young fellas a ride, and they asked him to stop and drop him off, and as he was dropping them off, and they asked for a cigarette, and he said when he reached to get out of some valves, give him a cigarette, and he looked back, they drawn a gun on him several times in the side.
Jackson says the victim was shot several times in his side and at least once in his arm. He was transported by ambulance to a local hospital for treatment. Anyone with information that can help lead to an arrest can call East Mississippi Crime Stoppers at 855-485-TIPS. Coming up, Lockheed Martin announced the layoff of thousands of employees across the country. And next, a raid of Sumter County's jail today has many residents wondering what's going on.
Small rain chances tomorrow as rain returns Thursday and Friday. Your forecast is after the break.